You're listening to the Democratic Voice of Burma. This is DVB English News. I'm Joe. In this week's briefing, flood death toll continues to rise. UN Human Rights Council told that Myanmar is in an abyss of human suffering. And Ek Khaale, the Rohingya visual storytelling project. Plus, the National Unity Government Foreign Affairs Minister speaks to DVB Newsroom. Regime media reported on Wednesday that 419 people have been killed in 54 townships since the remnants of Typhoon Yagi arrived on September 9th. Mandalay and eastern Bago regions, southern Shan and Karen states, and Naypyidaw were the areas of the country most impacted. The UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs stated that an estimated 887,000 people in 65 townships have been impacted. Nearly 100 injuries have also been reported. The regime went on to state that 533 roads and bridges, 435 religious buildings, 99 telecommunication towers, and 735,461 acres of paddy fields were damaged. Nada al-Nashif, the UN Deputy High Commissioner for Human Rights, called the crisis in Myanmar an abyss of human suffering. She was speaking to the UN Human Rights Council in Geneva, Switzerland on Tuesday.
Entrenched in armed conflicts spreading the length and breadth of the country, the military continues to lose ground, exacting an ever higher price as it goes along the way. Airstrikes and artillery, the military's weapons of choice, have killed scores of civilians in villages and internally displaced persons camps, violating international human rights and humanitarian law.
That was Nada al-Nashif, the UN Deputy High Commissioner for Human Rights. She also raised the situation in Arakan State, where Rohingya have been targeted in attacks. Human Rights Watch stated that the Arakan army and the military have forced an estimated 18,000 Rohingya to flee fighting into Bangladesh. Another 10,000 are waiting to cross the border to seek safety in the refugee camps, according to HRW.
While not comparable in scale and scope to the military, some ethnic armed groups have also harmed civilians, at times apparently deliberately. Recently, the office issued another warning about the possible reoccurrence of atrocities against Rohingya caught between the Arakan army, which is forcing them to flee their homes, and the military, leaving them nowhere safe to run.
The Ek Khaale Visual Restoration Project was started by photographer Greg Constantine and the Rohingya community in 2020. Ek Khaale means once upon a time in the Rohingya language. It was launched in collaboration with Rohingya living in Myanmar.
It took a year of basically sifting through, analyzing, deconstructing this huge, massive block of raw materials that had been collected through and contributed by Rohingya and that I had found in archives, and then trying to chisel away at it to try to tell a narrative. And that's how these 9 chapters of the project were kind of constructed, to show different slices of time and using the different visual materials that we had found.
That was Greg Constantine, the curator of the Ek Khaale Storytelling Project. Constantine has been documenting and photographing the persecution faced by the Rohingya in Myanmar since 2006. Ek Khaale is a historical narrative that counters the disinformation spread by successive military regimes about the Rohingya. The National Unity Government Minister of Foreign Affairs, Aung, spoke to DVB Bureau Chief Momo Myat. The two discussed the progress that the NUG has made since the 2021 military coup.
Our control area is expanding each and every day. So that is why we have the accountability to provide services in our control area. First and foremost is the security of our people and civilians. The second one is that to provide their daily basic needs, which is related to the health, education, and food, and like basic needs for the people.
That was NUG Foreign Affairs Minister Aung. Newsroom Podcast Episode 14 will be available on October 1st. DVB English News is available wherever you get your podcasts. And that's it for this week's briefing. I'm Joe. The weekly briefing podcast will take a short break, but we'll be back on October 11th. Follow DVB English News on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube Music, or Audible. And subscribe to our daily briefing newsletter for the latest on what's happening in Myanmar. Find it on our website english.dvb.no. DVB English News is on X, Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok. You can subscribe to us on YouTube, where our latest explainer video examines the backlash against the NUG People's Administration in Sagaing region. Thanks for listening.